Hello everyone, you're listening to the Fantasy Football Uptick. I'm Jeremiah Blue, and today I'm going to be going over my top 24 running backs. I've been talking a lot this offseason about the running backs because I think that that's what you want to start your drafts with. As I said in the episode earlier today, that I would like to get as many of those top running backs in the first 4 rounds as I can, 4 or 5 rounds. So I would at least like to come away with 3, but if I'm in a double flex league where I can start 4 running backs, I'm totally down to come away with 4 running backs because I think there are about 24, and I'm about to go over all 24 running backs that I think are actually worth starting. There's not a lot of risk involved with them. Now, some of these guys on this list, there are risk, and I've weighed that into their current ranking. And after this 24, you start getting to the guys like the New England running backs, guys like Darius Geis and Kenyon Drake, who could be good this year. They could be the feature back, but even if they are the feature back, it's not going to have as much upside as some of these guys have. And these guys already have a clear path to being feature back roles, or they're just on great offenses to where I think even if they're not the feature back, they're still going to be able to be successful. So I'm going to go through this as fast as I can. Again, all 24. If you want to get some in-depth looks at these guys, I've talked a lot about these guys in my previous episodes. A lot of that stuff still stands, but I just want to give you guys one last updated ranking prior to your drafts. And then my next episode, I'm going to be going over my draft live, and I'll be talking you guys through exactly what I'm doing. With that, let's jump right in. First guy on the list is Saquon Barkley. There's not a lot of explanation that needs to be put there. He's going to be a workhorse. He's amazing. He's the most talented running back in the league, in my opinion. There's nothing really going on there other than the Giants are not very good. Next on the list is Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey will probably be the lead all running backs, at least in receptions this year. So in a half-point PPR league or a full-point PPR league, he could even be number 1 in that kind of league. So Christian McCaffrey is a clean number 2 for me. I think that's where the drop-off happens. I know a lot of people are very high on Kamara. I think there's a big difference between Kamara and these other two, Saquon Barkley and Christian McCaffrey. That being said, Alvin Kamara is kind of on his own tier in that 3 group. For me, I'm the highest person in the industry on Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook, as I went into detail when I talked about him, and I think it was the tier 2 running back rankings, Dalvin Cook, I think he's got a lot of opportunity. I think the only knock on him is the fact that he hasn't been able to stay healthy. But if he's healthy, he's just as good as these guys ahead of him. And I think that Vikings offense is going to be a little bit better than people think. So I've got Dalvin Cook higher than anybody, but I just love Dalvin Cook. And in that preseason game, when he finally got an opportunity, takes off for an 85-yard run, and that's all we really seen of Dalvin Cook in this preseason. So a lot of these guys have moved up and down my list based off what we've seen in the preseason and who I feel comfortable drafting, who I don't feel comfortable drafting. Dalvin Cook has been here this whole time because he's got a history of game film showing me that he's an elite running back when he has the opportunity. I think the addition of the offensive line or the improvements on the offensive line this offseason are really going to help him out. Next is James Conner, and I was kind of down on James Conner because I heard all the Jalen Samuel talk. Well, it was pretty obvious James Conner is the starter. So for me, and he's going to be the workhorse. The Steelers have always used a workhorse. I totally think that was smoke with no fire. I think James Conner is going to be the workhorse in Pittsburgh behind one of the top 3 offensive lines in football with Ben Roethlisberger and a decent passing game. I just think he's going to be an elite running back, just as he was. I don't think there's going to be any difference between him this year and last year. And if I can get his last year's numbers this year, I'm going to take that at my number 5 running back. Nick Chubb, after the trading of Duke Johnson, I think Nick Chubb is going to be the workhorse for at least the first 8 weeks. A lot of people are worried about Kareem Hunt. I think he's going to be out of football too long. I think Nick Chubb is going to take that opportunity and establish himself as an elite running back during that time. Plus, even if he doesn't, those first 8 weeks, he could be the number 1 running back in the NFL during that time, and that's going to get you into the playoffs. Next on the list is Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon, to me, I'm higher on Joe Mixon than a lot of other people in the industry as well. Basically, that Rams offense is coming over to the Bengals. And I know a lot of people are like, well, it's not going to be the Rams offense, but it's going to be better than the prior offense. They're going to run a lot of 3 receiver sets. So there's not going to be a lot of 8 men in the box against the Bengals this year because they're going to be in 3 receiver sets so much, which is going to open up room for Joe Mixon. I think that Joe Mixon has the opportunity to put up Todd Gurley-like numbers because he fits the mold of a Todd Gurley, right? Now, this offense is definitely not going to be as good as the Rams was, but honestly, when Jeff Fisher was coaching the Rams, when McVay came into LA, nobody was thinking that was going to be much of an offense either. So I'm not saying that it's going to be something similar to the Rams, but I think that Joe Mixon has the potential to put up things that Todd Gurley did in the passing game and in the running game. I do think he's going to be a workhorse. Next on the list is actually the guy I was just talking about, Todd Gurley. I know there's been a lot of talk about how injury prone he is and all these injuries that he's been dealing with. You know what? While it's true, I just think that maybe it's getting a little bit overblown. Even with 15 touches, I think he can approach Alvin Kamara type touches, and he can do what Alvin Kamara does with said touches. Honestly, that's why I had Alvin Kamara a little low, because Alvin Kamara is going to be in a timeshare with Latavius Murray. He's just on an elite offense. The same goes for Todd Gurley. I think he's going to be in a timeshare, but he's going to be the main guy in said timeshare, and he's going to be on an elite offense. So I don't want to let him go down too far. I think his upside as far as being a workhorse back like it was, I think those days are done. That's why I've got him this low. I'm not as worried as other people about the injury. I don't think he's going to miss a lot of games. I think they're just trying to manage the injury or the arthritis in the knee. Okay, next on the list is Ezekiel. This is where I kind of draw the line for Zeke. Right now, he's not signed. If he does get signed, I move him immediately up to number 3. If he gets signed before your draft, or there's rumors that he's going to sign right before your draft, I would still move him up to at least right behind Dalvin Cook or James Conner. But I like him right here because I like all these guys, and I think even if he comes back week 1, all these guys ahead of him could produce more than Zeke at this point. I think once we get past this point, David Johnson, I'm just not a big believer in. And then Le'Veon Bell, I think that's going to be a timeshare. Leonard Fournette has never shown me anything. So Zeke, right here, I will wait for him when it comes to, I will draft Tony Pollard. I will reach for him if I draft Zeke and I'm in a deeper league, or if I need a running back, if I get to a point where I don't have 3 running backs that I can start or 2 running backs that I can start, I will reach for Pollard. But this is where I draw the line with Zeke, is right behind Todd Gurley. David Johnson, again, I've talked about the Cardinals offense and how I'm not 100% that I believe in that. Not only that, David Johnson did finish good last year, but that was because he played for 16 games. I just don't know if he's going to be able to hold up under that kind of punishment, but this doesn't look like a high-scoring, touchdown offense. He might get a lot of yards. He did look like he was involved in the Cardinals. He is still my number 10 running back on the list, so obviously there is a lot of upside there with David Johnson. I'm just like the 9 guys above him better. Le'Veon Bell, Ty Montgomery looked good in that offense, and it sounds like they're trying to trade for another running back. Adam Gase has a history of having a running back by committee. I haven't seen enough to know that Le'Veon Bell is going to be the workhorse. It goes back to what I said with James Conner. I saw it in the preseason. James Conner is the workhorse, whereas Le'Veon Bell, I'm not 100% sure he's going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers type workhorse. He's still going to be good. He's just, I don't know if he's going to have that workhorse workload is what I'm trying to get at. And now Leonard Fournette, he hasn't actually been good in the NFL, but he's going to get that workhorse workload, so that's why I got him here. Chris Carson, he's really flown up my draft boards. Honestly, he was really good last year. In the preseason, he's looked really sharp. A lot of talk about Rashard Penny taking over for him or eating into his touches. I'm not buying it. He looks better. Chris Carson's a better running back than Rashard Penny. I think if nothing else, he's just going to get more involved in the passing game, which is what the Seahawks have been trying to do, or that's what they've been talking about that they want to do going forward, is get Chris Carson involved in the passing game. So he falls in at number 13 for me. Damian Williams, I was super low on Damian Williams. He didn't even crack my top 24 going into the regular season because he's been bad in the past. He was terrible at Miami. I don't believe in Damian Williams' talent, period. But he's going to be the starting running backs in Kansas City this year. Going into the season, he's going to be the starting running back. I can't let him drop any further because, honestly, whoever the starting running back in Kansas City is going to put up fantasy numbers. That is what's going to happen. It's the best offense in football, in my opinion, going into this year. So Damian Williams, he should be the starter. Andy Reid has never really rotated running backs or never been good at managing that process. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of rotation there. I think Damian Williams is going to be the starter until he's not. Now, if he loses the job at some point, then he loses the job. But while he's the starter, he's going to be a fantasy asset. Next on my list is Kerryon Johnson, and I've struggled because I don't like what I've seen out of the preseason. By that I mean that they're using C.J. Anderson so much. But he is ultra talented. He is just so much better than C.J. Anderson. Detroit's going to be a lot better than people think. That offensive line is better than people think. Matt Stafford's better than people think. So Kerryon Johnson, now he's going to be involved, like the main guy involved from the backfield in the passing game. I mean, I like Kerryon Johnson. I think the talent's going to, even if he starts off a little slow, I think that towards the end of the year, he's going to take over, similar to what Joe Mixon did last year, where it kind of started in a timeshare, and then by the end of the year, Joe Mixon was just the guy. I foresee that happening with Kerryon Johnson this season. This is why I got him where I got him. In Dynasty Leagues, I love Kerryon Johnson. Aaron Jones, I wish I was able to see a little bit out of Aaron Jones this preseason, at least kind of give me a warm fuzzy that he is going to be the workhorse back. I think he's going to be the workhorse back, but I'm not 100% sure, which is why I've got him this low. Honestly, he'd be moving up the draft board if I knew he was going to be the workhorse in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers-led offense. There's a lot of upside here with this guy, but so I'm going with my gut that he's going to be the workhorse back, and so this is why I got him at 16. David Montgomery, kind of in a similar situation. Obviously, Tariq Cohen is there, and he's a very talented running back. He's going to be involved with the offense, but David Montgomery is going to kind of take over for what Jordan Howard did last year. And I think that David Montgomery is a much better running back than Jordan Howard, and it should be taken like that going forward. And I think he's going to put up better numbers. He's going to be involved in the passing game. That's going to be a pretty good offense, so I like him there. Mark Ingram, he's going to be on the most run-heavy offense in the NFL. He's better than Gus Edwards, and Gus Edwards was a very good running back towards the end of last year. The only problem I have is that Hill's there now, and so there's a chance that there could be that he's not going to get all the work, but I love Mark Ingram here. I think that maybe towards the end of the year that he might have another Alvin Kamara situation where he ends up in a running back committee, and he's not the best running back in that committee. But for now, Mark Ingram is the man, and he could end up being the biggest steal of this whole draft because he could get more touches than anyone on this draft board being in that offense with Lamar Jackson. I've already explained how being with a running quarterback really opens up things up the middle because the defenders on the outside have to play conservative. They can't crash down on the running back. They have to be disciplined in where they stay, which is going to allow for holes to open up. Derrick Henry's the next guy. He's a Jekyll and Hyde kind of player because early in the year, Derrick Henry was very mediocre. He's never been involved in the passing game, and in the last 4 games of the season, we saw what Derrick Henry could do if they just give him the workload. So I suspect that they're going to go towards what they were doing in the last 4 games of the year, but he's down this low because I'm not 100% convinced. We didn't get to see Derrick Henry in the preseason. I would have liked to see him get all the reps with the first-team offense, and since I didn't get to see that, I'm not 100% sure that's going to be the case. I think that Dion Lewis might be involved a little bit more than I would like if I was coaching the Tennessee Titans, but I'm not coaching the Tennessee Titans, so I do think Dion Lewis is going to be involved, and therefore Derrick Henry's upside is kind of limited. Josh Jacobs, he wasn't the lead back in Alabama. I've already talked about this, but he did look good in the preseason. So I've actually moved Josh Jacobs up my list, and all these guys right around this spot are pretty close. I almost put him over Derrick Henry because I think he is going to be the workhorse in Oakland, and I do think that Oakland is going to be a little bit better at running the football than I think people realize. So he does have the potential. The fact that I haven't seen him do it for an entire season, even in college, is why he's so low here. And then with Marlon Mack moving on, Andrew Luck's gone. I do think Marlon Mack is going to be a little bit undervalued going into this season because Andrew Luck's gone. I do think Brissett's going to be a decent quarterback, and he's going to be able to get Mack involved. I do think what's going to end up happening, though, is they're going to end up being in these get behind in games, and now you're going to get more Nyheim Hines than I initially thought when I thought that the Colts were going to be an elite offense and they were going to be leading, or like an elite team just in general, so they were going to be leading in games and therefore reliant on the run game and allowing Marlon Mack to really make a run or like really get a lot of carries in this kind of offense. That being said, I think they're going to rely a little bit more on the run because they're going to want to stay in games and not put it all on the shoulders of Brissett. Devontae Freeman I have here because I think the Atlanta Falcons are going to be a super elite offense. So I think he could be super efficient, but he is in a timeshare. So I'm putting him here strictly because I believe in the Atlanta offense. I do think that he's going to be splitting time with Ito Smith, and actually Ito Smith could be a real nice little sleeper because he could be just as good as Devontae Freeman into the season because I think it's going to be a pretty close to about a 60-40 split as if I had to guess. Melvin Gordon, this is about as far as I let Melvin Gordon fall because of the upside here. I think all these guys ahead of Melvin Gordon could do what Melvin Gordon does, even if Melvin Gordon came back today. That being said, if Melvin Gordon came back today, he would move into my first round. I'd probably put him right ahead of Joe Mixon or Todd Gurley. But Melvin Gordon is here for me if he hasn't signed, because I do think that holdout, and you notice it's going a little further than Elliott, because I think that holdout's going to go a little further. And this is where I think, and all the guys above this, I do think could possibly outscore Melvin Gordon. And then the last guy on my list is Duke Johnson, because I do think Duke Johnson ends up becoming the workhorse in Houston. I think he's better than Lamar Miller. He's 210 pounds. He's not undersized. He can handle the workload. They are trying to trade for a running back, so if they get a big name via trade, then I might back off a little bit and think this might be more of a committee. But I think right now Duke Johnson's going to be the workhorse. They traded a lot to get him, and they clearly believe in him. That's it for today's show. Hopefully you liked the episode. That was a little bit of a change than what I usually do. I was kind of going quicker with the running backs. Let me know in the comment if you like me talking a little bit faster instead of the in-depth analysis that I usually put on each player, and it kind of drags out the videos. Be sure to subscribe, like our videos. I'll be posting new contents weekly. Till next time, see ya!